Behind this, there's this. And behind this, there's this. Structure is behind every piece of media we consume. Podcasting is no different. Here is the S-Town team with lots of Post-its behind them, showing some of the structure of the story that was told. Sure, we can all just hit record, say whatever we have in our mind, and hope that when we publish our episode, we'll get discovered. But I believe when we do that, we're setting ourselves up for a long journey of trial and error. And the thing is, podcasting's like really in right now. So let's give ourselves a better chance than the rest. And what will set us apart is structure. Structuring our content is the key to captivating our listeners' attention. And it's easy. But before I get into the why and the what, I want to address some thoughts you might be having right now. There are objections like, Addie, I'm a pretty creative person and following a format is just not how I do my thing. It's not going to let me express my true creativity. Okay, creativity is limited by your own call. Structure is a guide for your creativity. Another thought you might have is, won't we eventually start to sound the same? Structure is only an outline. What you decorate it with is what will set you apart. Your true personality, your point of view, your experience. Missing Richard Simmons, Serial, they all have structure. Those teams just use their own style, their own experience and point of view that they had with that story. And when I was first studying this whole structure thing, I thought, why is it used in entertainment and education time and time again? And the answer, our brain. Our brain is wired to love patterns. Structure is a pattern. Our brain is always thinking in terms of, tell me more and what's next. For example, take a look at this pattern. After a while, you can start to think to yourself, I know where the next red box goes. I know where blue goes. I have a good idea. And here it is. And what I want you to take away is that this is how our brain is functioning when content is backed by structure. It's quickly tapping into the mind, the brain of the listener. So let's get into a structure that we can all use and easily adapt to our own style. And here it is. It's designed to have a listener play our episode, be captivated, and be waiting for the next episode. From play to waiting, not play, stop, unsubscribing, and never hearing the show ever again. And you know what? Each and every one of these boxes can take 15 minutes each. But I really want you to have a roadmap that you can implement when it's time to record your next episode. So let's get started. And the first thing is an intro. It sounds simple, but it's extremely important. A good intro gets a listener from this level to this level of excitement. Now, to truly implement an intro, I have to highlight something special about a podcast listener. They're not being stimulated by visuals, and they didn't stumble upon the show because it was playing on the radio. They're probably interested in the show because someone recommended it, or they were actually punching in some terms on their podcast app and found the show. This creates a listener with expectations. Because of that expectation, we have to be intentional and quick about capturing their attention. And the proven method for this is telling them what's in it for them. But we do this on two levels within the intro. The first one, what's in it for them on a show level? Tell them what your show is all about. It's essentially your podcast elevator pitch. And the second level is telling them what's in it for them on an episode level. Clearly state what this particular episode that they click play on is all about. Don't just welcome them, ramble on about how your date has been, and then somehow eventually get to the topic. Within seconds of your listener hitting play, this is what your listener should be hearing. And I have a couple examples to share with you. Here's a podcast named Small Doses. The intro starts with a theme song. It's well written. It tells you what the show is all about. Once the song is done, Amanda Seales comes in and quickly tells you what the topic of the episode is all about. If she has a guest that's going to be joining her, she'll go ahead and mention them here in the beginning so that you can look forward to hearing about that guest. And then she'll also tell you why this topic is important for all of us to hear, including herself. Punch Up the Jam. Here's a comedy show that they take a hit song, they break it down, have a lot of funny commentary, and then punch it up by making their own version of the song. And even though comedy is driven by improv, comedy definitely has some structure. They do have a theme song, but the theme song doesn't take care of the what's in it for them method. Demi does take care of the show level, telling you how the show goes. But then right after he's done, Meal, his co-host, jumps right in and tells you which song they selected and give you some history. And they'll also share their experience with that particular song. And you may think storytelling podcasts are too complex and don't have a basic structure because everyone has their own unique way of telling a story. But even this awesome storytelling podcast hosted by Jake Brennan has structure. Disgraceland, if you don't know what it is, it's a true crime podcast about musicians getting away with murder and behaving badly. His intro has the same elements, it's just delivered differently. Within the first sentence, he tells you who the musician is. Then he'll give you about 2 other sentences giving you the opening story, pretty much what you're in for on this episode regarding that musician. And at the end, he tells you, and this is Disgraceland. It's a great way to do that because you're coming in saying, okay, you kind of have an idea of what my show is about, but let me go ahead and tell you what this episode's about, give you a couple sentences to express how we do this show here, and off we go. So let's continue with the structure. In the introduction of your episode, you told them what you're going to tell them. Now it's time to tell them. I have to throw it back to an old-timey guy named Aristotle. He discovered that phases of 3 is the best way that we react and remember things. So I have 3 phases here from A, B to C. My goal as a podcaster is that I capture their attention in the introduction, and knowing that our brain easily reacts to these 3 phases, I use it to drive their attention easy as A, B, C. So whether your show is a comedy show, educational, or storytelling, you can use these phases by Phase A, start to dig into the topic, the interview, the story. Phase C, give them the good stuff by digging a little deeper into the topic, the interview, the story. It's typically known as the hook. Phase C, give it one last dig into the topic, the interview, the story. So let's go back to some examples here. Remember, she has a main topic for the full episode. She grabs that topic and takes them through these 4 phases. Punch Up the Jam, they take that hit song and they take it through these 3 different phases. Disgraceland, he tells you about that musician story in these 3 phases. You might be thinking, do I always need 3? No. Deliver your content in the best way that adds value to the listener. Sometimes that's going to call for 2 phases, and other times it's going to call for more. Each episode can be different. Just remember to keep the experience of your listener in mind. Don't try to take advantage of their time because they'll quickly catch on and then unsubscribe from your show. Okay, so we got their attention, kept their attention. Now it's time to make them come back for more. And we do this with a really good outro. Whenever we just say, hey, that's it for today, thank you for joining us, peace, we're losing on the opportunity of capturing their subscription and further connecting with them. I have some outro elements to share with you to make the listener come back for more. And here it is. Start your outro with a reflection. Tell them how the topic, the interview, the story went for you. Reflect on what you shared. Right after the reflection, go right into the CTA, call to action. There's no S in there because at this point in your relationship with the listener, they've trusted you. Don't ruin that by telling them to do a million things for the benefit of you or your sponsors. I'll get into that in a moment. So right after your call to action, tease them. Tell them what the next topic, the interview, the story is all about. If you have a clip, definitely play that small clip so that it really entices them to come back. So you reflected, the call to action, and the tease. This ends things on a really good note. And the possibilities of the listener hitting subscribe and waiting for your next episode, they're pretty high. And once you've done these 3 things, now you can do whatever you want. Tell them about your sponsors. Tell them about the extra stuff that you want them to do for you. Going back to the examples, Amanda ends her show with a segment called The Last Dose. It's her outro. She does reflect on the topic and how it was for her to share that topic with us. Now, the call to action and tease is a 2-for-1 here because she asks you to join her on social media, and based on the discussions that she's having with you, If there's a good topic that really kicked off the conversation, that topic is going to end up on the show. So that's how she ends her show. Punch up the jam. They reflect on the punch up that they just made. If they have a guest, they'll go ahead and start wrapping up that guest on how you can connect with them. And just like small doses, their call to action is to follow them on social media and submit song requests. Disgraceland. His outro consists of telling you how the story ends for the musician. Because it's a storytelling podcast, there's a lot of moving parts. He gives his production crew a shout out, and rightfully so. His call to action is rating and reviews. Right after that, he tells you who the next musician is. It's really great. Now our structure is complete and will guide us for future episodes. This simple structure taps right into the mind, the brain of the listener, captivating them and having them come back for more. Gone are the days of just hitting record and hoping that we'll get discovered. And if you haven't caught on already, this very presentation follows the structure I just shared with you. And I'm showing you this because I want you to see that this can be adapted into any type of content. Podcasting is no different when it comes to structure, but what makes podcasting special is that it's an intimate medium, and the listener's hoping you give them the goods. With this structure, you won't let them down. If you would like the one-page PDF of this structure, please visit this link for the free download. I'm Addie Saucedo, creator of the Podcast Planner. For more of the structure stuff and my information, please visit thepodcastplanner.com. Until next time, structure, plan, record, and share your voice with the